G'day punters, welcome back to the Punters Academy review of the meeting on Saturday at Rosehill. John Walter from racingwatch.com.au joins me again as usual. How are you going, John?
Good, mate, apart from this thing having a heart attack about sharing my screen, but hopefully it'll rectify itself and we'll be all good. How was the weekend?
It ended up being one of those rare days where it all comes together in different areas, so very happy with the outcome. And the meeting in Sydney, it looked like the shoot races have come out dead, and it looks like the course proper races have come out close enough to slow, sort of that dead to slow mark. So better than the heavy, and part of that's obviously due to the fact that they're racing wider, and they were getting wider. Early in the day, the track report I had suggested the up inside lanes, few lanes were like quicksand. And so it was no surprise to see them sort of 6 to 7 off, which is pretty much what we predicted. They came even wider, and then of course they used part of that inside section of that track later in the day with some of the runners. But look, it was a funny sort of the day, and we've got some pretty genuinely run races, and some horses that were well backed and got some of the results, and others that were well in the market got some of the results. I suppose there was nothing really all that surprising, I suppose, in what you see there.
Not in reflection, that's for sure. And yeah, it's weird dealing with these tracks that have dry for a couple of days out, but still racing in slow to heavy ranges. It's interesting, like testing sort of surfaces, but not messy. So it seems to be far easier than anything like raining on the day.
Yeah, I think so. Anyway, we don't have the highway this week. We only had the midway, so we'll start off with that.
One second. This is having a mental breakdown. I don't know if this will die or not, but I've got to reset it. 1 second.
No worries. And hopefully punters following our early show picked up some money there in Melbourne, in particular with Douay, and I suppose to a lesser extent the result with Just Folk in Sydney knocking off Ellsberg.
Hang on, what's going on here? Look at this, we've got two, John. We kick that one out.
There's two of them now.
You're gone. Share screen. We want this screen. Whoa, we're back.
We're back in business. So race one there, the midway, they've gone out 2.7 lengths fast to the 800, 4.3 fast to the 600. So solid tempo, gave pretty much every runner their chance in terms of position. And in this race, I don't know what you think, John, but
this is not the race.
Time was only so. You are looking at the wrong race.
Click on the right race, John.
Try race one.
Cooking with all cylinders now. Yeah, it was all, to me, it looked a race where there was nothing that really wanted 1200. They either wanted 1400 and further, so they were really one paced, or 1000, 1100 meter types, and fastish. Was it fast run? It was fast run, wasn't it? Solid enough to
be. Solid tempo, yeah.
Solid tempo, an ordinary race. It just looks like the winners had 57 starts and never won beyond 1100. It's just an absolute throw it in the bin job for mine.
Yeah, there's not much to say here. I don't think. I can't see anything meritorious too much.
Lord Heron's run well, but he's sort of, I think he's a 1400 metre dry track leader, sort of dominator. Well, I think he's run really well because he's not suited back in distance, but that's about it. I think the rest are pack chasers.
Yeah, 2 up was a bit easy in the betting, 9 to 2 out to 11 to 2. There was good money for Bob's Your Uncle, 9 to 1 into 6 to 1. A bit of specking defeat, which was 17 to 1 in the old, if we can say that, into 11 to 1. And Lord Zoolander was probably a little bit disappointing on face value, I thought. And Delatat was sort of 3 to 1 out to 7 to 2, and it's managed to run third there. But
well, it was actually, sorry, I probably should mention, it was the one. It trialled like an absolute bomb, and then it drew horribly, and again a bit of a query, and it's dragged right back to last. Runs on probably arguably the best part of the track, but it's probably the one horse with a little bit of upside as well in the race, just horribly placed here. And the horse that you mentioned there was a bit of money for as well, Bob's Your Uncle, just that I think they left Amy McLucas on. I don't think she'll be coming back to a city track anytime soon. This is in the the red and white colour sort of runs up a few backsides, checks off back to the inside. There it goes, back to the inside. Worst part. So it's forgivable, and Dalalart had everything again. So, yeah, forgot about those two.
You can have them from my point of view. Race 2,
yeah,
Magic Night.
They've got to stay in that grade. I agree with that.
So the Magic Night here, they've gone 5.9 lengths faster than the Colts and Geldings here, and that seems to be a fairly consistent theme of late. The fillies being better than the Colts in terms of times. So they've gone out 0.6 of a length faster, the 800, 0.53 faster to 600. So a sort of above average tempo in the early part of that race, and then sort of by the time they got to the 600, it had averaged out. She's Extreme. Got a nice run there and proved much too dominant, given the sort of a little bit of easiness in the betting there. 13 away out the 5 to 2, but it was short on the totes, and so that would suggest that your old boss there might have had a bit of a lick at that.
Someone with a bit of influence has found it late, yeah.
In terms of the last 200, it ran 8th best sectional rating on the day and 15th best last 400. So, look, it sort of has done enough in what appears to be a fairly weak year, slipper-wise, to suggest that, it's in the mix.
I think so. And like you said, the fillies are dominant again. Queen of the Ball probably had a bit of track conditions to suit yesterday, but was ridden pretty aggressively to take advantage of them and held them off. And she's got, that similar form, as you said, like the running time every week. At the start, this is probably where the race is won. Newnham's horse, what's it called? Swift Sweet. Sort of pressed from the outside, and then I think this horse, Winner Takes All, was changing tactics to be ridden back. I assume they were trying to look for that position, and when it lobbed outside, sort of made the race for She's Extreme, and Mark Newnham's horse was in a lot of trouble. Interesting horse, won't make the slipper, unfortunately, because of prize money, but going forward, I think it's a very nice horse, Mark Newnham's horse, Swift Sweet, and as you said, She's Extreme. Certainly, if it gets these sort of conditions next week, can measure up in what looks an interesting race next week. You've got to be looking for fillies, I'd say, as your first starting point anyway.
Sayuru, how do you pronounce that, John? Help me out here.
Down the bottom, that'll do.
Look, it sort of tended to do a lot wrong, I thought, in the run, and it was well back too, 10 to 1 in the 13 to 2. Missed a kick, as did Miss Fabergé. It was probably a little bit easy there, 11 to 2 out the 13 to 2. Winner takes it all, was slow to recover. Celestial Spirit was well back, 9 to 1 in the 13 to 2, and a little bit of specking for Magic Carpet, 12s and the 10s.
Hard fit back on the inside, kind of seemed to have its chance, like obviously the inside runner, but I think they all did. I think the right horse is going to the slipper, that's for sure. It would have been nice if Mark snuck in there, but this is the one that looks, especially late, like she's going to be strong. She gets similar conditions next week.
Okay, so let's move on to the Pago, the Colts and Geldings. They've gone 2.5 lengths slow to the 800, 6.1 slow to the 600. So we start off with below average tempo, and by the time they get to the 600, it had slowed right down. In terms of times, I suppose, that it's poor. I don't think I'd be wanting to be with any of these going forward into the slipper next week. Or
any other race by the look of them, even Magic from, say, a sire's point of view sort of showed itself up a little bit. Unless it's a bone dry tracker, I couldn't find it going into any sort of race. It was certainly nice and flattered on debut by the tempo, racing back and sort of cleaning up a few tired horses late. And he was exposed a bit on Saturday. But the win is just tough, fit. That's all he is. And like you say, he ran pretty average time. And I don't think there's much upside to many of these short term.
The Gerald Ryan horse saw a bit of support there, 9 to 1 in the 13 to 2. That's Williamsburg. Peace Officer was sort of green and sort of over raced, I thought. 15 to 1 in the 10 to 1. A bit of money there. Sweet Ride started solid 3 to 1. As you say, Magic was a bit easy in the betting, 5 to 4 out the 13 to 8, and even better, I think, with Tab Late. From memory, they did bet better than that. And as we pointed out, I think when we looked at that race, that Best of Bordeaux race, we said apart from the winner, the race is not much good, and it was a woeful 400 and 200 lead sectional that day, which sort of flattered that run of Magic.
Agree. And it's the only colt still, just because it's got that X factor going forward. Best of Bordeaux, I'd probably really take seriously next week at this point. And like you said, there's nothing strong through the line here. They're all battling. They're all doing their best. They've all pretty much had their chance in the run, and they've run poor time. So it is what it is.
Let's move on to the Ajax Stakes, race 4. The 1,500 metres, they've gone 0.1 slow to the 800, 0.4 slow to the 600, so average tempo. Look, it was probably not surprising that Blue Soldier led here. I think on my automatic map I had it within about a third of a length.
And last day he handed up, gave Ellsberg the jump on him, and certainly was never going to run past him. So it made sense for them to try and reverse the roles.
I think so. Just Folk sort of got the job done and was a nice result. There was support for it, sort of 6-1 and 11-2, and they did actually bet better than that. Kiku stand was solid enough in the betting at 6-1. Brutality eased. Look, in terms of sectional performances, Just Folk ran pretty well. Last 800 rating, 6th best on the day, 5th best last 600, 7th best last 400, 9th best last 200. Ellsberg, 6th best last 400 and 7th best last 200 rating. They came away, and Just Folk was able to get the job done. I suppose the money didn't really come for Ellsberg. It was sort of that 9 to 10 even, sort of hovering on that sort of mark. There were some that thought it would start a lot shorter, and I think we highlighted the fact that in the show on Thursday.
Saturday was his vulnerable run, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, it did seem like he was the logical top pick and clear top pick, but certainly very short.
Correct, because he was rising in distance, and a wet track again. And the rising distance is playing into the hands of far more runners here as to what he faced last start. He's always a little bit more vulnerable second up. He actually paraded, which was when I kind of got excited about the race, pretty soft. Like he probably needed the run, it wouldn't hurt him. And once he didn't get his own way, he was always going to be vulnerable. And he kind of did get his own way. Like you can't say he didn't have his chance. They've absolutely controlled the tempo up front, and all runners basically had their chance. But yeah, there's no knock on Ellsberg. I think he's run as well as he can. The winner was just a little bit fitter.
Yeah, he's improved off his first up rating, which I would have expected anyway.
Yep.
Jalmari actually 100-1 pop running into fifth place there, ran well. Last 200 ran the 4th best, last 200 rating on the day, 7th best, last 400, equivalent to Just Folk there.
I think I did a quick maths that it should be carrying something like 36.5 kilos or something if it was a true weighted race.
Yeah, it was great.
Oh my God. Like I could nearly say that of the two runners of Danny Williams, not jokingly, like this is nearly a better run than Shelby 66 from what we've seen. It's got chopped out there. It's not doing anything, and it rockets late. Like it's just scary what a couple of these Danny Williams horses are doing, because how can you fluke look at the horses it's running past?
He's going well. He's going well as a trainer, and there's probably some good reason as to why. But I think I'll keep that
Look at it through the line.
My sleeve. Yeah, it's going very well.
What the hell? Okay.
Anyway, race 5. Let's get on to the Maurice McCarten over 1,100 metres. They've gone out 1.5 lengths fast to the 800, 2.8 fast to the 600. So above average tempo here. Look, Shelby 66 managed to get the job done. It was much shorter on the totes, but that probably wasn't because of Delco playing. It was the Betfair price. I mean, he obviously participates there in that market too, and it was very easy and started about $10.40 BSP. So I would suggest he would have had it a lot longer in the betting. It was always going to be a tricky horse to assess. Look, fortunately, I backed Rule of Law and did save on Shelby just because of that big rating last start. I had that highway race going much better than what some ratings people had it at the previous start, so I did expect the horse to regress. I took £9 off it, and which is it's probably regressed about 10 or 11.
So it did. I was going to ask you that. So that's interesting. So it has gone backwards slightly, but not as much far as most would have expected.
You'd expect it to, going from weight for age, dropping 5 kilos into handicap conditions. you'd expect it to regress. So, but yeah, look, I took 9 off it and had it 9-4 on the automatics early. So it was always a horse that I had to play and at least chop out on. But Gravina was heavily backed 9-4 and the 7-4. Apparently it slipped on jumping, and you can sort of see side on that it lost ground, and it looked like the wheels were spinning at the start. So maybe an excuse for it. Remark, look, it over raced again, and apparently they questioned the jockey about why he sort of let it slide.
He sort of cost Rule of Law probably more in the end, because as he stopped so badly, it actually cost the other horse that you back there, because instead of sort of popping outside leader and having full control, he's had this horse slide around, had to come back wide. It's probably cost him a length. Not that I think it cost him the race. In the end, Shelby was dominant late, but it's he's just a weird horse, isn't he, Remark? He's a bit of a...
Look, I marked him, embarrassingly, I marked him 250 to 1 going into that race on Saturday, and it was just a horse I was very keen to get money out of. Look, he had the wind.
I thought I was aggressive at $11. You've gone 250s. Jesus Christ!
I do some strange things, John, as you know.
Yeah.
It was a horse I was very keen to get money out of. And look, to me, these horses that just trial well and don't race well, they tend to do that often. And also, just because the horses seems to have come back well after the op doesn't mean they do.
And I love it when you find a horse like that that's going to work in the run. Like, it was never going to get a soft lead. It would have needed Act of God to lob a 1 out, 1 back position. It's a first up heavy track, so testing run, testing position, perfect setup to be against a horse that's a professional trialer.
I think so. Moving into the Far Lap Stakes here.
I don't know where these horses go and what you do with Shelby. Just talking about it, like it's just surely
he's crucified from a handicap point of view, and I made a comment. I tweeted last week.
He went up 20 points, and he was still probably 3.5-4 kilos under the weight scale on Saturday. Like, he still was poorly in this race and still come out and won. It's just
he wasn't that badly in. He wasn't that badly in Saturday due to the other horses on the minimum. He was out of the handicap, yes, but not by a long way. And the best thing for them to do now would be go to Brisbane and win a. So what's that? 3 wins now. So he can't win a Class 3. So he can win 3 Class 6s.
Is a listed winner eligible for Class 6 racing?
I think it would be. I
know they can't race in highways, but I don't know about class races. Anyway, I agree with you. Like, he'd just be thrown in a class weights, Class 6.
Set weights, he can win 3 of them.
You know what he'd do, though? He'd roll up there in a Class 6 set weights, be 20 kilos above what he should be, carrying less than what he should be, and run a nice 4th and destroy everyone's multis for the week.
The great game, as they say.
The great game. Okay. Yeah, Rule of Law, I think this is a nice little race. These sort of horses can line up again. Gravina, Rule of Law. He probably wants a dry track Gravina. Shelby, Christ, I don't know what to do with it. And these horses, they're all, these two have got to be coming towards the end of their run a little bit. He's getting deep into his prep, Rule of Law, and Shelby, Jesus Christ. But anyway, next race.
Well, what a fantastic job. Bjorn's done with that.
How good for racing. When the talking point in Australia Cup Day is Shelby 66, it's crazy.
And Rule of Law, who had won, I think, 5 metros on the trot before going into Saturday. So, anyway, onto the Far Lap. Over 1,500 metres, they've gone 3.6 lengths slow to the 800, 5.3 slow to the 600, so below average tempo here. Mr. Mozart was able to get control and put its best foot forward. Looks like a slight new peak for it. Ran very good sectionals from the 600, 400 and 200. Were ranked number 1 on the day, I should say at the meeting, and in terms of the sectional ratings. Never Been Kissed has gone well and looks like it's on track for a step up in distance. Fangirl, who was backed actually, they took, let me just have a quick squeeze here. They took the 8 to 11, started 8 to 13, and was disappointing, but I suppose that was what I was
Yes and no, like what were its sectionals had to be out insane. It's basically faced an impossible task from this position.
Yeah. But I mean, we knew before the race where it was going to map.
Yes, but probably I thought the worst ride of the day was Reggie Bayliss here leading and going way too slow on one of gaze and handing up and like the way that the winners won. Maybe it didn't change the positions at the end of the race, but sort of destroyed Fangirl absolutely in the process. And who knows? But yeah, I agree with you. It was always going to be back in a slow run race, but just probably a little bit more aggressively than not. Just with one of gaze in the race, they normally roll along with something near an even tempo. They don't normally go out, 7 or 8 below or whatever.
Well, it was a mistake on my part not backing the winner, but anyway.
Yep.
Let's move on.
It was an easy race after the race. That race.
Indeed, it was. Okay, so go to Stockman's race, the Sky High. They've gone out 5.2 lengths fast to the 800, 7.4 to the 600, so above average tempo here. Mount Popper, by all reports, was sweating like a pig before the race. Great house. There was a little bit of specking at longer odds it. I had something on it as well. I didn't find the winner at the price, unfortunately. Look, I think Mount Popper's gone really well in the race.
Mount Popper ran really well. I was surprised sort of Spirit Ridge went out as hard as it did. I thought they'd control the speed a lot more, these on-pace runners here, and they didn't. But nothing crazy. Every horse certainly got its chance, and this form will hold up, I think. I think these are pretty decent horses. It'll be interesting to see when they clash with those horses from last week. I can't remember the name of the winner, the thing in the Chautauqua colours that went like a rocket, and No Compromise and all those horses. It's actually a really competitive bunch of 2,000 metre plus horses around at the moment.
Yeah, look, the winner, not the winner, the leader there, Spirit Ridge, quickened up noticeably between the 8 and the 6. And then, of course, between the 6 and the 4, just maintained that speed and couldn't see it out. So, you can't pot it necessarily. But
not first up.
Yeah, for me, I thought the horse going forward with a step up in distance would be Mount Popper. Yeah,
it's ran really well. Stockman's just really super honest when it gets conditions like this. It runs well. Great House is probably a bit hard to find. I thought Skylab wasn't bad, sort of backing on the inside there, struggling to get to the right part, ran a bit of a cheeky race second up and maybe knocked up. Not really a stable that's known for getting him ready for 2,000 metres second up on a testing track either. I wouldn't be sacking Skylab completely either.
No, for sure. Okay, on to the Coolmore Classic. Over 1,500 metres, they've gone 6.2 lengths fast to the 800, 8.5 fast to the 600. So solid tempo here. Looks like the quick back up and the very fit Lighthouse had a pretty good setup there, 1,300 up to 1,500 on the back up, and it was able to win convincingly. Look, there's Expat was solid in the betting and may have just gone a little bit too hard, perhaps. Maybe they spell it now. I would have thought.
Group 1, they should end Group 1s.
Yeah, look, there's a few family run. I mean, Tissue's got a trial again to the stewards and it's going for a spell, I think.
I think it might go for an indefinite spell.
Maybe an indefinite one?
Yeah.
Mirror Vision, Sam Clipperton rode 1.5 over.
That doesn't make me feel good. Not that it would have mattered, but I was on it at 40s and sort of kept betting at the end when it kept drifting and did get a little bit excited coming to the bend.
And Espiona, look, it just hasn't made age improvement from what it did in its first preparation.
Is she not one horse, though, that you could, you can see her here back in the field, pulling, maybe back. She could be one that could sneak back to a 1,200, something down the straight. She could just be put into a race back on a dry track and explode. She's not a horse that I can sack because you can see she's just got plenty of ability. Like, look at the ride he gives. Oh, my God. And I think she's already spent her pennies here.
I still say she hasn't made the age improvement from...
I just think that she hasn't been suited by this preparation either, though.
No, there's been excuses, and you could certainly forgive her. It promised the success. 2 ran well, as did a few of the others, but it did sort of suit the run on horses. I've never been a big fan of Promise to Success. I've just never rated...
Well, not a Group 1 horse.
No, I don't think so.
But the winner, like you said, just had the perfect run, perfect setup fitness-wise, and coming off that 7-day back up, similar to what Forbidden Love did the week before, right place at the right time in a pretty weak Group 1.
Yeah, Wanda Bar ran, I suppose, a little bit disappointingly, and it was a stronger race that it was facing, but perhaps could have done more. Outside that, Hinged raced pretty well. You know, it was one of those run-on horses suited. It's going well enough as well. So I suppose the fillies and mares.
Just ugly, isn't it? She's a Group 3 mare, I'm saying, at best. Expat leading, whacking away. Vangelic's second up, worked hard. Mirror Vision's a Group 3 horse. It's it's hard to find any of these horses in this similar grade going forward. Maybe Hinge back to 3-year-old fillies.
Possibly. Okay, let's get on to the benchmark 88. Over 13.50, they went 9.2 fast to the 800, 10.1 fast to the 600. Fastest run race of the day, fast pace, and this horse has just gone like a jet. They put the near side blinker back on, and it went fast and kept going. And
what did you price this roughly?
Look, I marked it before to race 7-4, I think, from memory. I'll just double check that. I was talking to a colleague of mine in the morning and suggested what price I had it, and he said, "Oh yes, but you know, you're talking about taxo here."
That's why I couldn't get it that short. But
it wasn't. Well, just on the way I do it, it's come out 11 away. So
I think interestingly, it's a very one-paced horse that I thought would be sort of just in behind him and not like this. And I reckon he's butchered it into a PR. It's actually run them all into the ground. They had fitness queries against this horse, a few that were sort of struggling to run the 1400 with this horse obviously wasn't. Like it could go another lap the way they've gone. So Ma and Pa probably looked like to me it was going to lead soft. He's taken it out of play with the fitness, played right into this horse's hands by absolutely slaughtering it going 100 mile an hour, and it's gone like a rocket.
Yeah, look, I just think the horse has gone outstanding myself. But, you know, the gear change, and since he's been with Pride Stable, he's just flying this horse.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And I think he'll be ridden pretty aggressively from now on. It'll be interesting because like the horses, Marin Park gets tired. Horses like Matau Takpi and he's that what's it called, Poetic Charmer. The hard fit horses that have been up and racing are the ones that run into the placings here. Anything that was any sort of distance queries really backing up late. So I think I wouldn't be worried about any of these horses. It's the only one. It's the only one going forward.
Okay, moving on to the last race, which was good and bad for me. It went out 13.2 lengths fast, the 1900 benchmark race, and 10.4 fast to the 600. So fast pace early, solid by the time they got to the 600. Suited to run on horses. Fortunately, I was able to back the winner, but unfortunately for me, the second horse didn't get home, which I had going for a very big result.
76 days between runs, should need the run, were my only comments about it. You're a freak.
Well, no, all I did was give it because it had a change of stable first up last preparation at Rosehill over 1800, so I just gave it that run. Admittedly, I didn't make an adjustment after Jean Van was replaced by Reece Jones, which would have pushed my price out a little bit. But in the morning, I was talking to a colleague and had it marked 9-1. So and I thought that was wrong, but.
And you're getting what was it? 100? You were getting 25 a place.
100. Yes. It was. Look, it was still good.
Yes.
But because the winner
could have been great.
Had a mark short, could have been great. But there's
very weird race. I thought they might go a little bit quick, but they've obviously gone completely mad in front. I don't know if Russo's even got cover. Which one's Russo? Is it the one running fourth now, or is it the one running seventh? One running seventh in the white cap. Yeah,
it takes off.
Yeah, it's hard to tell whether it's got cover for a lot of the race. It's a huge effort. It looks like it's definitely got it now, but makes a huge wide early move, scoots away and holds on. There's it's hard to know. And the 3-year-olds are all pretty plain in here, who all look like they had a bit of upside in. Zoom on 3-year-old, Benno 3-year-old, and Pale King. Complete Forgive runs up their backsides there, gets chopped out with the horses stopping in front of it and tries to get going a little bit late. But
so including Saturday, I had its 2 previous starts. I backed it at Flemington also when it got beaten by Crystal Pegasus. I thought it had it shot to
Russo.
And its two previous starts, I've got it going much better than it has previously for whatever reason.
Both the Melbourne runs?
Both Melbourne runs. So had it going better. And
I was concerned that Melbourne was better suited to it for whatever reason.
It was a very fast run race there at, fast enough anyway in terms of tempo, that 2,000 metre race. So it raced up on the speed that day. So from the wide alley, it obviously appreciated the tempo, and it was a great ride by Tommy Berry. So
it wasn't. It turned out like an inch perfect in the end, and it'll be interesting because most people will pot the form completely because of these runners, and obviously there's a big dip in the sections late too. So there's absolutely no merit here, but this horse has merit in its run from what it's done. Sitting wide in the run on a fast run speed. So these are the other horses back here doing not a lot that have run second and third. It's up there, makes the early move, gets clear, and only gets its martin shot late. So there is merit in his run, and there's obviously forgives behind because they've gone 100 miles an hour, but most of the merit in the race is with the winner.
I think so. In terms of horses to follow, John, what are yours?
Holy dooly.
We've raced through this card.
Oh, well, Bob's your uncle in race one. No, definitely nothing in race one. I think She's Extreme will run a hell of a race in the slipper, but needs conditions, needs those wet, sticky conditions. Nothing out of race three. I think Ellsberg and those horses, their form will hold up, but nothing to follow. I think Never Been Kissed will run very well in the binary next start, like you said, up in distance, but I would love a rider change. Nothing to follow. Taxi will run well again, but it'll be well found wherever it goes. Nothing to follow. She's Extreme in the slipper.
So for me, Mount Popper out of the Sky High and Taxu out of race 9 are the two horses to follow.
Yep.
I suppose we can get on to the questions now. We got through that card pretty quickly. So, John, of course, we need to talk about Top Sport.
Oh, hang on. Hold the phone. Geez, I'm normally the one that remembers our poor friends at Top Sport. We'll talk about their odds. Did they bet you to win 50 at 130s or whatever? Jesus Christ.
I didn't back it with them. Okay, so... Of course, you should have an account, Punters, with Top Sport. We keep saying that, but they do give you a fair bet, and they do, of course, bet these minimums from the time they go up. So at this time of the year, when you've got group racing on the card, usually you can get on, especially if there's a Group 1, to win 10,000 early and 25,000 late. And of course, if it's a major Group 1 that they determine, it's much bigger again. So get your account with Top Sport if you don't already have one. So moving on to the questions this week, John. First one here is from Les. During your punting journey, what was the most common mistake you've made and was late to the party to realise that a particular bit of information was an advantage to what you do betting? What do you think about that?
Why are you palming me this question? It seems to me like a bit of one of those Chinese proverbs or something. It's a very difficult one to understand, to be fair.
Look, the most common mistake that I've made, and I still do occasionally make it, is staking related.
Yeah, I would say the same.
Either having too much or too little on a horse, and then making the decision afterwards that you should have done better. I mean, it doesn't happen often these days, but it still does happen occasionally. And I'd say that's the most common mistake that I've made, and I think that most punters make. In terms of information that I've realised that is an advantage to me in terms of what I do betting, I think a comparison of how I expect the track to play versus what it actually does play on the day, and being able to make those fine-tuning adjustments in the run, I think that's a valuable piece of information. The disadvantage, of course, is that you don't get on necessarily at the fantastic odds very early when they go up, and maybe take advantage of some of those big mistakes. But you do get to keep your cards close to your chest and play it on a more informed basis late. That's my view.
I think pretty similarly. Staking is obviously the one thing you can never really perfect. You've got to be working on it. But most of parts of it, I guess, self-analysis doesn't just include reviewing of races and reviewing the way you handle races and trying to work out how to take full advantage of certain situations when they arise. You know, you might really, I tend to find that my best results come from races where I oppose a short price runner, and whether you're getting involved in exotics and things, or just how to commit to races where you know that are set up ideally for you and get the most out of them is probably the thing that I've tried to work on for years and years. And it's not as easy now because bookies have changed the goalposts a bit, moved the goalposts. But self-analysis of how you handle races to me is nearly more important than analysis of races and trying to find selections.
Yeah, good point. Williams asked, what do you think of, or why do you think the Everest horses in the Newmarket ran so poorly? Just having a look at that field now, the Newmarket. So what have we got?
Well, it was just the greatest poster child for putting a line through all straight races in the history of racing.
So we've got Lost and Running, Home Affairs, and Mars Crusader that came out of the Everest. Are there any others? I don't think so.
No.
So Home Affairs, look, did appear a little bit disappointing. It's gone pretty much the same level as it went in the Everest on my numbers. Lost and Running was disappointing and has gone obviously a lot worse. Now, we did say on the Thursday the synthetic filler and the 28 days between runs, and I know it had a jump out, but it did sort of peak 2 weeks apart in each run last prep. So that was only a slight query. I think you could probably put it down to the fact that the inside or the far side produced a result and the near side went absolutely woeful.
They've obviously tried to work harder at different parts of the race to keep up with that inside section that was just vastly superior. So, yeah, if you're ever going to forgive a run,
I think you've got to forgive all those runs. I mean, the inside, I should say the far side. Yeah, the far side. The far side went much better and the near side didn't. Yes.
That was just, what a shame. What a great race spoiled. It was horrendous, but anyway.
Anyway, the Kiwis got the job done there. Look, Daniel's asked, when we're reviewing races like the Newmarket, do you go back through it and look for the mistakes you've made or something that you may not have seen? Or is there some races that you just put your hands up and I never expected the race to be run and won that day or that way and happily move on? Look, I think that's it. I mean, you rate the race post-race, well, at least I do, and you just simply move on. I mean, there are some things that you can't explain, but I think there is an explanation here. And for whatever reason, Patrick Maloney, Fred Kersley, and those horses on the inside.
What about Craig Newitt from Gate 2 going to the outside on Artorias? Oh, my God.
Look, Artorias, I was against a lot, but I mean, you could say it could have run better, but
it would have run better if it was on the inside, no doubt. But yeah, I'm not saying it would have won or anything, but you would. It's just completely unlucky. Normally, those inside draws, they're desperate to get to that outside fence. He's pulled the rabbit out of his hat to get over there, and it's probably cost him any. Well, it did cost him any winning chance. It's amazing they didn't work that out.
Look, yeah, exactly. It's amazing it didn't work that out. I mean, they did go quick though. I mean, they did go 8.7 fast to the 800, which is, very fast.
That's very fast down the straight too, right? That's crazy fast.
That is crazy fast. That's adjusted because those straight races are treated separately from a track variant point of view. Look, I don't know what to say there. Home Affairs anyway. Now we'll go to Ascot One for a couple of runs.
Yeah, it'll have a nice lie down for a while, I'd say, but it's it'll still travel, I would imagine. I'm not a big fan of the horse, to be honest.
Yeah, look, in terms of Daniel's question, I think it's just that's what you do, is that
that race in particular is a pen job, surely.
Well, there's things to learn from it, isn't there, in terms of some of those horses out wider.
Oh, you can learn from the race, you can dissect. There's no doubt, like, you've got to apply some sort of penalty to horses. But I mean, trying to judge if you made mistakes pre-race there, if you've got someone like Craig Newitt who's gone out from Gate 2 and made a point of going to the outside fence, like, they didn't even know the track was going to play like that. So how does anybody? I don't think anyone's. I don't think you could punish yourself for not working it out pre-race there. So it was just a bit of a completely anomaly of a race.
Well, I mean, did they go too quick? I mean, that's the other thing. So I suppose you can argue. I mean, Home Affairs obviously ran, well, not obviously, but did run the fastest rating 2 to 8, 2 to 6, and 2 to 4, and the 6th fastest to the 2 on the day. So,
in the wrong part.
It was no wonder it knocked up a bit. So, yeah, I think we can move on from that one. Okay, so punt ponies. What impact does a horse backing up have on its performance and ratings data for that week? Shelby and Lighthouse seem to have relished the high volume of racing lately. Thanks, guys. So, it's hard to say. I think every horse is different. There's no magic formula that says just because a horse is backing up, it's going to go well. I mean, I personally always like to go back and have a look at the record of the horses when they have backed up, if they have previously, and seen what they've done, the run at the run in question, and also the run either side of it, and try and see if there's any sort of similarities or reasons to suggest that the horse is likely to race well again or improve because of the backup. I mean, fitness is obviously a great thing in racing, especially when you've got testing track conditions. Yeah. So
and if it's going into a race where that's going to be a positive, where it's like where it's got a fitness and strength edge over the rest of the runners, then it's probably you want to look after that horse more. Yeah.
Okay, so one of the questions here, John, I'm not sure who it's from, but you've sent it through to me this morning, but
I'll find it.
The logo, is it cats or something written into the logo?
It's a Twitter one by the look of it.
Yeah, 6:38 this morning. But whoever it was, all this talk about riders walking tracks, how can they get it so wrong on Saturday? Froggy knew it and missed a start on Artorias and taken a right-hand turn to get to the outside rail from barrier 2. If he stays on the fence, I think it wins question. Well, we just sort of covered that, I think. I mean, it probably
Della 79 that was, but yeah, It just shows that they had no clue because they're not a silly camp. The Freedmans, their grand final tick all boxes don't really get many things wrong stable, and I doubt that he's gone rogue and done that on his own bat. So just amazes me that there can be such a differential between inside and out, and no one really picked it up or suggested that it may be likely to happen.
Okay, Christopher asks, and this is a good question, but it's really difficult to answer. Most overrated, overhyped factor when doing the form for an upcoming race? What do you say, John?
I'd probably reverse it. I think things like, riders are the most underrated. I think, like positioning, run, being better at walking, those sorts of things that are underrated. I don't know what things are overhyped. I can't really think.
I think it depends on how you do the form and how you come up with your selections. I mean, for me, it's all about numbers and measures. Other people sort of do it more intuitively on feel and with video analysis, trip handicapping, and the like. I would say, from more of a ratings point of view, I would say that one factor that is overrated is the video form, and I say it's overrated because I think it's hard to profit from. And I think most of those horses are well found. And I'm not talking in every single isolated circumstance. I'm talking generally across the board.
I agree with you. It's the hardest thing to do is mark, and when people are giving huge, forgives or whatever for certain things and interference and stuff that's completely overplayed. But if you go back to what goes into your data, a lot of things were worked out by feel to what makes up your numbers. So what I'm saying is you've had to determine exactly what goes into form your algorithms and what has more weight than others. So it's you're doing it without doing it.
They were processes of I suppose of testing and retesting, and it's something that's evolved over time. But initially, though, you have to have the ideas to work from. So I suppose I am sort of combining a lot of that into the numbers that I come up with. And look, isn't that how anyone, like even the teams, they come up with a number.
Yeah.
And they say, well, this is the price we think it should be, and this is the price we're going to back it down to. So they determine the price that it starts largely.
It's interesting, and how you read this question is like, what do you say? Like, what say for argument's sake, public opinion? Are you saying that public opinion of inside draws is something that's overrated? Of course it is, but most people have worked that out. Yeah, it's a very hard question to answer. I think there's a lot of things more that you can pinpoint things that are underrated more than overrated.
Yeah, I think that's a good answer. Okay, question of the week.
Oh, shivers, hang on, hold the phone.
Lucky last from Mitchell. What are your views about the current state of tote pools? What could be done to improve tote betting? Do you think a national tote plus rebates available to everyone would reinvigorate the tote in Australia? And how would the betting landscape change in Australia if we had larger tote pools? So multi-tiered question. Excellent question because it's so relevant. Look, I think that the tote forms a very important part of the landscape. Unfortunately, it is a absolute shade of its former self. I remember going to the races in the 80s, and you'd look at the tote prices, even a minute or two out, and you'd be pretty confident that if something was overs the tote and you wanted to support it, that it would still end up overs at the finish. So there wasn't these massive changes in tote pools that we see and tote prices that we see, not only immediately before the race, but also during the run, where that money gets consolidated or that extremely late money gets consolidated into the pool, and whether or not there's changes as a result of bets being cancelled or not is another matter entirely. The fact is that the big teams play the totes. They make up a large percentage of the existing tote pool. It would be better if that pool was larger and more competitive. And I think that Rob Waterhouse came up with the best suggestion that I've heard for this problem, and that is to have two tote dividends, one for on-course, one for off-course. The on-course is zero commission. The off-course is 20% takeout. So that would almost immediately and almost overnight lead to punters coming back to the races to take advantage of those significantly better prices in the totes, which would drive an increase into the tote pool, which would drive more stimulus into the betting ring and make it more competitive once again. So we would have that two-tiered framework in which to operate, the tote and the bookies, which is the way it was and the way it was strong, as I remember it. I think it sounds like such a simple solution. I can't believe that something like that hasn't been done. There's been other good suggestions. Richie Irvine came up with one as well. But I mean, I just think it's a no-brainer. It just seems to me that the administrators don't care or don't know or refuse to actually...
Well, if they don't know, it's just
into it.
Unfathomable that they don't know, because it seems to me like they're trying to actively drive it into the ground rather than...
What are they doing there? What are they doing there?
I don't...
If that's the case.
Yeah.
I mean, surely it's a... I mean, I know these decisions are obviously complex ones to make, and there's so many different facets that need to be considered, but it does seem logical that if you suddenly said there's no takeout on course and the tote dividend's going to be significantly better, that people would flock to the track. I know I would.
And it's a business that's solely funded by turnover.
Yeah, well, we are racing's only customer. Let's face it.
That's right. And like similar to what you said, like I used to play huge. A percentage of my betting was exotics, quaddies, things like that, and it's basically impossible to do now. And that's been absolutely stripped by the corporates. And very simply, again, if they want to provide those products, how can they say that I can have a quaddie, but you can't? How can they be allowed to do that? So, take that away from them and say, if you want to provide this product, no problem, but it all goes back to the tote. You get your 5 or 10% commission, same sort of thing as what you're saying, and all of a sudden the pools are probably up 100%, like 100 times overnight. It's something very simple that can't hurt the industry. and it will only drive turnover. So,
well, look, it would have an impact on Betfair because Betfair would feel the pressure of that because they would no longer be able to operate in a 100% market, clear of any commission or product fees, whereas the industry would be able to facilitate some sort of an arrangement along those lines.
What are you saying would hurt Betfair?
Well, I'm saying if we suddenly had, well, as per Rob's suggestion, if we suddenly had zero takeout on track, then that product and that pool structure, along with the increased betting on course, that would affect Betfair.
You would imagine that they would never get 0% through, but say for argument's sake they cut it to 5 or something.
Whatever
in line with Betfair, that would be realistic.
That would be realistic, sure, but and they could do 0. The fact is, they could do 0.
They could, but they won't.
Well, they won't. But I mean, we're not talking about things that they won't do. We're talking about things that they could do, and what it would look like if they did it. And this is the problem: is that the administrators absolutely, I don't know what they're doing.
How is it possible that this conversation that you and I are having is not happening with people like Rob Waterhouse, whatever, representing with administrators and at least getting an answer on why it's not happening?
Why haven't the powers that be at Tabcorp, who are in charge of making these types of decisions, sat down with your Kingsleys and your John Walters and your
main turnovers, whoever it is,
your Rob Waterhouse and your whoever else is betting, and say, what do we need to do to get you to increase your turnover? What do we need to do to get you betting on the tote? What do we need to do to get you increasing your turnover across the board? And these types of discussions, robust conversations, need to be had if they want to improve things. If all they want to do is continue going along this, let's increase prize money and artificially help racing that way. Well, it doesn't help racing at all, does it? Because
and the tab are just getting flogged at everything. They're getting flogged at fixed odds. They're losing at fixed odds. They're losing market share at fixed odds. Their tote pools are just gone.
And they essentially fund a lot of the prize money.
They're the major funder. That's right. And then no one seems too worried about it. But we've implemented, what was it called? Odds and evens.
Look, we can have this discussion till we're blue in the face. It won't change things.
But it's not difficult. That's the part that's so frustrating, isn't it? That it's just common sense, a couple of simple changes can really turn around the whole landscape. And most importantly, for the whole industry, it does frighten you that if there was increased turnover, all it will do is increase prize money, because that's not the real aim of the game. But regardless, higher turnover it should be good for everybody.
At least it might be sustainable. The prize money increases might be sustainable in that type of environment. I mean, look, the fact remains that if you had employees running a business that you owned the same way that the industry runs wagering, they wouldn't have jobs.
No. And it's proven. Like, they had a monopoly of the whole industry. They had no competitors. They had nothing. They had a few, then Mark Reeds or whatever. But it's just amazing what the tab has become over the last, we'll say, 10 or 15 years. And it's just, there should be some questions asked, surely.
I think we've all asked the questions. The point is that we don't get the answers. And, we'll get some story.
Tab shares are scary.
Suits the narrative. Well, I mean, let's face it. I mean, there were obviously people out in the marketplace who felt that they could do a better job. People with substantial resources like Matt Tripp, like other consortiums that were trying to take the tab over and acquire the waging and gambling, because they know themselves that they can do things better.
100%.
So I think that it's an absolutely relevant question, and I seem a bit.
We would have made it question of the week if we knew how to answer it better. I think if we both of us had a sort of, it's a good question. I just looked at it and thought, you just said, that's a good question.
Well, it is question of the week, and Mitchell, well done.
Question.
Multi-tiered question, and I think we've answered all the parts. To everyone else, I think so. Look, I mean, there are other things that could be done too, and we can get into those separately. But I think that early betting should be changed. I'd be quite happy to see the very first market 25 minutes before the race.
Agree. Later the better, absolutely. And certainly If all these little consortiums want to open up betting early, then they just have to keep betting. There should be no, it's just anything where you're looking at, as a punter, if you're looking at a price but you can't take it, there's something wrong.
Yeah, and there was a post during the week about all these corporates and how many operators there are, 75, 77, whatever the number was. It was a large number. We all know that what happens when you back it with one and the price goes off. So it effectively reduces that number significantly, doesn't it?
And you're 77. If you're smart enough to sort of back a few firmers, let alone winners, your life's hell with them. It's just, I don't even understand where they're coming from. Like, what are they doing? What are they trying to achieve?
How many arguments do you have with some of the operators regarding, price change and
MBLs? You're just forever customer servicing. Agree.
Some are better than others, but unfortunately, a lot of those smaller operators aren't doing or playing fair, I think. Okay, punters, that's the show this week. We've got a show obviously lining up on Thursday, which is the Rapid Fire show.
Slipper day, right?
Slipper day. If you've been backing the selections that we've talked about, I think you're doing quite well. So hopefully we can keep that up. Brad Davidson, a colleague, is getting married next Saturday, Golden Slipper Day, so he's out of action. Good
getting
man.
Married on Slipper Day?
I believe so.
So hang on. So, the new Tony Brassel is getting married on Slipper Day.
Well, changing of the guard comes a change of traditions, I suppose.
And if my wife tries to talk to me on Slipper Day, she gets barked at. What's going on in the world? But it is a good day. Well, there's George Ryder Rambert Stakes, Galaxy Group 1s, Rosehill Guineas, Banyan Cup, Birthday Card, Pona Stakes, Munro Stakes, and the peach of the day, the Benchmark 72 Midway over 1,500 metres.
Can't miss that. So punters, tune in on Thursday, and we'll hopefully tip you a few winners there as well. And thanks again for listening this week. Thank you.
Thank you to Top Sport. Cheers, guys.
See you guys.
That's the wrong one. Let's try that one.